chen ko da nge so gu dong le do nge se la pong du nge nge la po ja da di ne ga se yang da wa zo be sang ji ji kong ba nge bi ni ba de se la yo se na yang da wa zo be sang ji le yo bi de sen je tang ji jian de sang ji ji kong ba rong bo ji jian je to ba sha na mi chang ju ji sen kong shu.
Next, we cultivate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free all suffering mother sentient beings from the sufferings of the three lower realms and of whole samsara? I should take the responsibility to free all suffering mother sentient beings from the sufferings of three lower realms and of whole samsara. But I do not have the ability to do so. Only perfect, complete, enlightened Buddha have the ability to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings, by all means, I want to become Buddha.
The days da pumbo da rang yi ji da ta de kan da ya man du be rang yi ji tu be dong yi sa tong ban ji de na chu ji sang dang xiu.
Next, we meditate on emptiness, that I do not exist intrinsically one nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically.
The days is sim je tang ji de sang ji kong ba to ba de ji de da chang ju lang ji ling bi chi hin yang ne chi de ji ne sim je le pen ba du yi sa tu ku lang ji xiu.
Set motivation. For the sake of all sentient beings, I want to become Buddha. For this purpose, I'm going to receive Lamrim teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you. Oh yeah. Tang also kasi ko ji deng sang de la dong ji sang ba da tu sang ba ni yo ro ko ji deng de la. Ro. Tang ko ji deng ji deng ro sa ro. Ta dong tu sang ba de dil man du do.
Yeah, so but previously we talked about the general sufferings in samsara, and then it's divided. There are two ways to present it. One way is in 8 types of sufferings. Another one is 6 types of sufferings. So today I'm going to talk about contemplating the 6 types of suffering.
Da di la dong tu sang ba de ro. Da xi ni ma xi ding qi de dang do. Da nie ba me ba ngo me ke ba li yang da do. Yang da ni sa jo yang da to men jo zhou me be nie ba da zhou xi. Da di ri ro zhou de.
Yeah, so contemplating 6 types of suffering in Letter to a Friend states the 6 faults of secular existence as lacking certainty, the first one, lacking satisfaction, having to discard one's body again and again, being reborn again and again, changing from high to low again and again, and lacking companions.
Da di song de do ro, song de ko la yi de sha sa me ba. Di de wa la che zang che ja ngong bin ta me ba. To ma me ba ni shu ba wo di song shi do.
And these can be summarized into 3, and they are: there is nothing reliable in secular existence. There is no final point of satisfaction, no matter how much of its happiness you enjoy, and you have been in it since beginningless time.
Da kan da de do. Da kan da de de dan ko li de sha sa me ba. tila kanda li thobala kanda iti murwa yandi yandu li ndowa rwa li thobala iti murwa li yanda yandu ndowa sita dirishwa.
So regarding the first point, there is nothing reliable in cyclic existence. Again, it has 4 points. So it is inappropriate to rely on the body you have attained. You will discard your body again and again. Yeah, so it is inappropriate to rely because you will discard your body again and again.
Jiwa megi jiwa inanda, tendugi jiwa inanda, jiwa kawa lamba ina, yanja ku mentine, jiwa jilane, yanja lama giba ko chiguyo mare se urwa, de ko chiguyo mare, yanda bo jile jiwa lana, yanja ya jiwa lema giba ke chaguyo mare ruwa, ke chaguyo mare, ya jinda bo jina, ya ji tagarana re, jiwa ja tongchang se yanse ndoni ruwa ruwa yanse ndoni ruwa ruwa
là con đời này yak thì yang cái thì yak thì lên rồi nhưng nghe bao nhiêu mà
de nga se ya la jiwa jilan cai je la da shi si ya la jiwa le mo giba ko che gu yo ma re so so bi kanda le ni wang ge jiwa ji gu cai xin je la ruwa dan ko la kanda yang ni ji ji kanda je de ma pong ba ina 이 간다 양자변나 야기 지와 양세 빼빼 자차 동차 뭐버 링고여서와 근데 링고 차고여서 대가 링차를 단도 링고 인고에서 나서 간다 레다 영문이 빠마도 봐이나 로와 보다데 딜리 지와랑데 대간다 리 양다 야돈도 동아 로와
그래서 기타기 자게이나 양이 자게이나
띠띠지라로와
라소 양디 자게데 여부시라라미도
띠띠 여지마다 가리는
라소
도에 가리는 하고 마스
Yeah, so regarding this point of discarding your body again and again, so as long as we circle in samsara, we take rebirth and again, either as a human beings or as an animal being, then we have to continue to take the rebirth again. So we have to, even if we were born, even if we was once born as a human beings, it doesn't mean that you are not going to born as a human beings again. Even if we once born as a yak, it doesn't mean that you will no longer be reborn as a yak. So as long as the cause of samsara is not abandoned, which is karma and afflictions, if these two are not abandoned, then we are going to reborn. Even if we have already reborn as a yak, then we are going to reborn as a yak again and again.
Didi sunza kanda ngaso li yanda do idunga zita tenda dirwa. Kanda pe jewa yanda bu jilena pe yangse pe li de kanda doni jewa kanda leni ni pama tuna yanda do jewa langu des. Dai kare chila jewa da kare mila jewa da. Kare kanda dendro ndami naso sha shiwu pe chansa naso la tendi chino gure sirwa sha shiwu pe jewa le manu pachi yo mara tanga su pe jewa pe tsera mo 매번 새로 통만 매번 다다바다 간다 지원 뭐 쉬우지 랑차디 다 간다 안토 신지 원만 통야 된디게 지와랑네 가서 원만 통야게 지와랑네 배 원만 통야 돼야 지사바이나 가서 잔소나시 지와 된디배 잠이 된디 렌찬네 배 원만 통야 돼야 사바이나 잔소나시 니 차차르세 거와 원마데 수수고 통야 돼 오다 된디배 지와 마물랑차르세 거와 지와 뭐불랑차리 대 간다 가서 레다 녀문이 빠마도 바이나 된 코알라 간다 두스 양양도 두스 지와랑도 그래서 리 양도 돈이 그러와 답에 리 라미 나서페 리치네 치네 파 리 강가도 가서 내상야바 나시레스 거와 야라 지와 링오디 야그 리데 내상야바 밀레 지와 링오디 미그 리데 내상야바 나시 그러와 다 간다 리데페 도시 샤샤지베 두시 가서 룸바도 보치나 가서 페 가르세 리칸리아 pe sosoge 다 타림보 지레야 노니 로지나 다 담보 노네 베네 사간다 보지나 데네 디네 클라산이 야데 제모제네 야 신다지 산이 도그로와 야 대샤그로와 야 대샤네 야 노니 사제 신달도 야데 컴바데 샤시 샤신 도바 나시 맞서 내상야 바나시 레시고 리데 베 던도 지라 베 찌와 자다 마보 통타 마볼라니 내간다 리데 샤시 샤신 도시 도고 레시고 로와 오다 레 줄레니 모데 파마투 바이나.
So we have to abandon our bodies or discard our body again and again because we are reborn again and again because of karma and afflictions again and again. So the example that I mentioned just now, it doesn't mean that you were once reborn as a yak, then you were not reborn as a yak again. So it is not the case. So even if we have been reborn, even if we have reborn as a yak, so we will still reborn as a yak again if the cause of samsara, the karma and afflictions are not abandoned. So because of reborn again and again, then we have to discard our body again and again. So imagine we have been, we have taken life, we have been reborn since beginningless times. So how many bodies that we have already discarded, and yet more to come if the cause are not abandoned. So if every birth we take, every rebirth we take, then we drink the milk of mothers. So if we were to accumulate all the milk that we have drank before, then it will be like the oceans, or the oceans cannot feed it as well. So it shows that the rebirth that we have taken are numberless. And this body that we have taken in each rebirth in samsara is like a rest hub. You know, you just go there. It's something like a hotel. It's something like a guest house, or you just go there and rest and do something, and then you go again, just like travelers. So if they need to travel up to a mountain, and then they have stop point, right? Yeah. So this body is like a stop point. Yeah. So this body is like a stop point. So just like a travelers, and when they want to travel up high a mountain, and then there are many stop points. So at this stop point, they stop and they rest, and then they eat food, and then rest. Then they travel again. Then tomorrow, then they departs to the next set point, next rest point, and stop point, etc. So this body that we have taken in samsara is like a stop point.
Oh, this kind of yang do as well. Tang also nanshi de daga chi rang re pe jiwa cera thoma mi dan da ba yuan nanshi chi ma he ke ma re su su ro nanshi de gi jun yo ro daga rang re li de jemo jin ro da kan da li de pe ne sang ya ba nanshi ma su sa kan da dran kan ga de jemo ji shi ji shin ro ro nga so pe tu ri sin da ba ka wan ro ba yin ro wa daga nanshi en do ne mi de chi rang ro ko tu ri sin dran ke mi de chi kono mi chi bo de ko dran kan sa kan sam ba de jemo ji shi tu sin ro ro So
it's like a tourist. If they go for a trip, then this tourist will stop at one restaurant, makan, and then go to next destinations or the tourist place. So we change the restaurants as we go along. So the tourist is still the same. So what it means is it shows that the persons is the consciousness. The main consciousness is one. So it goes in continuity. However, the body keep on changing.
penny shebala yiti muruan da pabuda roa pabuda ma chuman juwata pabulanjo jiwanjo ma chuman juwata da nza hisin juwaso nyepa meba wosta nyepa meba de kanda roa de nyepa meba wosi da de mashi roa.
And the second point is regarding uncertainty. So it is inappropriate to rely on benefit and harm done to you. So it refers to the person who benefits and harm you. So there is no certainty as to whether your father will become your son, or your mother will become your wife, an enemy will become someone very dear to you, and the like.
간다 나서 레다 뇽원긴 코알마 지와 랑차이 신치라 다 간다 지원데 랑차나다 녜사레다 고치브레스 힌다 랑고마시 딩에바 요마레스 거 간다 로와 녜바 메바스 와다 다 간다 파다 로와 파벌라 지원제 단다 지원들라 베다 간다 소소게로와 파 임바이나 젤리한테 불라 지원주와 로와 되게 불라 지원주와 다 마추마라 지원주와 다 드라 로와 다 니라 지원주와 다 파첸들라 베 하장기 체텔라 다이나 체멜라야 지원주와 데게바 요마르시야 로와 오다 체텔라 베 도보 쉬지나야 체멜라 데게바 요마르스 다 지와 신달라 이로와 오 체질라 베 샤바이나 다 데게바 요마르시 로와
So, so there is no certainty whether your fathers will become your son, your mother become your wife, or an enemy become very dear to you. So because we if the cause are not abandoned, then we reborn in samsara. Then we are going to reborn in samsara again and again. So there is no certainty that regarding in this life, how say someone's a sentient being was your a sentient being is your father, and then next life it could become your son, and in this life someone could be your mother, and then in next life could be your wife, and in this life could be your enemy, then in next life could be your friend. So this is about this life and future lives. Even in this life itself, in the previous part of our life and earlier part of our life and later part of our life, then it changes also. There's no certainty as well. Like for example, in the earlier part of our life, someone you have a good friend, and then somehow something happened. Then in the later part of our life, then that used to be a best friend become your enemy. So similarly, and in the early part of your lives, and you have an enemy, and then somehow something happens, or and then over the time, then that used to be an enemy become a friend of yours. So there is no certainty even in this life as well.
Oh yeah, ta kanda ngeba meba siwa dila tini yugurwa ta kanda dada nila ngeba meba tan thomi la ngeba meba sin thomi la ngeba meba siwa nga so kaji pe jiwa rin thombo ta rin meba si tini ke shi gudwa wa tan tini la ngeba ge yomare kanda changsa na rin thowa la jiwa la changsa la meba la jiwa la wa ta tini pe jatung la sabu mambo yugurim de thowa la jiwa lamba ina tabari ge tin thowa ki yugumare meba la jiwa lamba ina de tabarige de la chewalewa ke umares ngeba yo mares da de shuboda ubola ngeba yo mares ro shuboda changchang pe shuboda de ngaz dan de chuchu de na mangbo do wa ngaz pe che de la shuboina che mela ubo chawa da ya be che mela kandarwa che mela pe che de la sozo uboina ya che mela shubo chawa ro da che de la shana de ni go da chewa jema de so da pa dan ramina so yun ro wa yun ro wa
And the third point is, it is inappropriate to rely on the excellences you have achieved because you fall from high places to low ones. The third point. So again, if you think that, or once we born as a high caste, then we will always be a high caste in the following lifetimes, that is not certain as well. So sometimes we might think that, or once a person was born as a low caste, then it will, that person will always be a low caste in the following lifetimes. That is also not correct as well, because it is not certain. So same to being rich. So in this life, one could be very rich. So and then you would think that the person might think that, or he's going to be rich in their future lives as well. It is not certain as well. Same goes to being born poor. And yeah, so in this life, even in this life itself, we can see so many things. We can see in the world that some people, they are very rich in the earlier part of life, and then in the later part of their life, then they becomes very poor, become a beggar. And on the contrary as well, one was born very poor, and then later part of their life, then they become very rich. So in this life, it is uncertain. So don't mention the certainty that is going to happen in the certainty in the future lives.
다 간다 녀바 메바다 가서 지와 상이 지나 빼 지와 상보 간다 와서 빼 가시 빼 야 지와 랑디 그럼 미더부지 지와 랑바이나 다 미디야 빼 수상와 빼 빼야나 다 간바다 라바 수포 간디나 빼 하장 인제두다 템바 든지 지와 랑바로와 다 가시 빼 간다 야 든지 지와 상보 든지 많이 봐 로와 어다 든지 랑녀바 요 마레스로와 다 두스 상마나 녀바게 요 마레스
Yeah, so a good life or a good rebirth, like for example, being born as a human being and then born with attractive appearances and then with healthy body, etc., it is not certain as well. So same goes to a person who born who take an unfortunate rebirth.
단단 가서 친들라 가서 지와랑니게 미 선다진바인 미든도 간디진바이나로와 가서 제수 ndo 야바다 ndo 상와다 ndo 녜바 간디지나 메기마 제와 시말란도디 다 소소라베 게자 강쾌야 인제 되게 주네 뜻소소 메기 제와 데브 상에도 ndo 그래마도 단다 제수 상보지라 메기 제와 제말라 제수 상보지 녜바 지야게 요 말스로와 단다 제수 녜바지라 제와 제말라 제수 녜바지 제가 녜바 요 말스 로와 아 간다 메기마 제수 녜바다 제수 상보 간디지나 메기마 소소 제와 랑도디 뜻소소라 자라야니 쾌야 야두니 요래로와 다 야두니 질 게자라 쳔보지 질 게자라 쳔보 메바 다 동이기 디파사기 게자 디파사기 든디기 베 사면치 쾌야바이나 다베 메게마도디 코제와 장에 든디케차 마레 데 코라 메게 레 칸디 똑지 메게마 지와란 도고래로와 오 든디 순자다 제와 장에랑에 바요 마레에스 간다 또 시원이로와
계사당 디바기 사변데로 지와라 고야로
미기마 지와 로야디 들어와 조 들어와
Yeah, so even in this life, then one is born as a human beings with very attractive appearance, or born as a very ugly appearance with an ugly appearance. It is not certain that next life you are going to be born the same as well. So because it is uncertain, so this attractive appearance or ugly appearance we cannot carry forward to next life. So what we can bring forward to next life is there are two things. There are two things that we can bring forward. One thing is a good one. One is a good thing. Another one is a bad thing. So the good thing is the root of virtue, and the bad thing is the seed of negativities. So, and it depends on these two. Then we take the rebirth respectively.
다 간다 뒤에 간서 공타로 뭐 지기든 리시 손여와 공타 팀이 되면 배 개바 친구 쉬우지래 간다 간서 드링기 내가서 배 하장 도보 자 친구 배 취세 까마질라 카타마 도야기 된리 도보 도모 로와 배 취세 까마질라 배 카타마 되고 도보 도모 된리지 주신 뭐 지네 대 간다 깨체 세단 지
기실라 가기도
에라 리만디지와 데니 치질라게 깨찰레네 든디 치질라게 드리 티세 자자도 티세 두와이너와 고데
Yeah, the internet internet not so good. Yeah, 단나 고기도 계실라 당기 가자
고기도와
고기도
야야
단나 고기도
어디 다 군타는 뭐지 두스 손바레스 로와 간다 다 군타는 뭐지 백해바 전부 쉬비지래 간다 만수 조모 간디나 하장배 추식까마질라 카트마 투야기 베텐디기 냠도 노지요나사 냠도 데야요나사 드니 페로와 베니 핀스진도 제동 첨부 딘디지 임바이나야 다 간사질라 계셔 셰당게 치 셰당게 만디 치치 셰당게 만디 비토네 다딜라 도타네 란사코로 까마치나노 다차로야기 까마치나노 다차기 베 차나 미기 망이 통만데 나처럼 통문이 최난 통문 데서와 나시로와 찌질라베 미기 통데면 봐 거기에
이게 라스 단다 타마데에 가서 미기양데 가자
더 때까지
Yeah, today is the internet not so good, I think.
오 든디 간다페 도보페 추제까마라 카타마투야데 다케차 셰다 치치기 베텔라페 난도고 도타네 페페 로와 미긴 통마데바페 pinsi tape tromo pe tsa chimbo tendi yimba ina ta kanda kama jinang pe mingin thoma de ba che thoma de nga kun thoma de cherang ni thoma de ba sewa na shi ji ji be mi sa be thoya mande ba tendi pe da cha no re se gore cha yore se gore 거기에
거기도
그냥 그거 정말
야 양양대 거기도 얘네들 가자한테 고성되잖아.
야야야
그래서 공다기잖아. Yeah. So Gongdan Rinpoche says Gongdan Rinpoche was a very famous scholar, a great scholar. So Gongdan Rinpoche said that so today you have a friend, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and that you cannot separate from for even 1 hour. So you have so much affections and love towards each other. So if though you have such a great affections towards each other, so once a person said something, once one of the best friend, one of the best friends said something that is not pleasant to hear, the way of saying it is not so good, or even using a word that is not pleasant to hear, and then all these are superimposed or exaggerated by our conceptual thoughts, then we think that it is so inappropriate, the words he used, the word he used is so improper, so bad, then exaggerated it. Even the friends that these boyfriends or girlfriends that you cannot separate from for even 1 hour, then can become an enemy in just 1 minute. Can become enemy in just 1 minute, that you don't even want to see the persons anymore, that you don't even want to talk to the person.
당아서 코아시와들 이디요 말에서 된다 데르다 이디요 말에서 가서 로아 코아들 간다 배 하정기 빈식이 지동기 대화 가능이나다 대화들 간다 이디메 비된다 데로와 민주 초초온다 보지 맞아 단데 주소나로 미 이제 때문에 가서야 코아를 지나 가서 이디요 말에 이나 제라 가서 배 주소나로 미 비니야 디 제버지로와 민주 초초온다 보다 나지 밑에 지금 말아 그래서 지 미디 템보 요레시 따지도 미디 가서 지디 비용다라 보지로와 딱게 미디 배 정보 쉐바다 레가 당가리나 정보 장사 진가데 미 템보 쓰고와 따디 그다음 미 템보다 보지 시고로와 맞아데 이나 가서 배 오다 든딩 가서 지소나로 배 간다 미 템보다 미 아보스는 미 진마롱게 밀레가 가리진 정보치 단다 기자시나 킬레나 단데 슈까마 카시질라 ያን 주완도게 주완도게 든디 요로와 어때 소데 간다 다 템모 메바나 부지로와 템모 메바 다 띵아진 지니베 셰당시나 다 템모 요다 메서 띵아서 가도지야 드서 자서 든디자고로와 미데페 기차 셰당다 레가 제다 가로이나 정보치 봐 미데페 레가다 기차 가리냐페 짐마 장자 시네게 다데 맞은 지티비 로와 로당 토니 간다 장보다 장보미보다 덴바다 미바기 시위로와.
Yeah, so what I said just now was what I'm trying to say is there is nothing reliable in samsara because it always change. So even the persons who have, to whom you have great affections, and even the persons have great affections to you as well, it will always change. So it's always ready to change. So in general, when we talk about persons in people in our societies, there are people who are reliable and there are people who are not reliable. So those reliable one, those who are honest, who say true words, who never lies, and who is a good person, kind person, then we regard that person as a reliable person. And there are people who are not so reliable. Like for example, you say to the person one thing, and the person accepts, and just after a short while, then you immediately change. So become doesn't accept your point anymore. So though the person previously accepted your points, and then he's always change his positions, way of thinking, or even who always lies. So those persons are regarded as a persons who are not reliable. So so if this reliable, there's nothing reliable, then if it accords with the worldly perceptions about reliable or not, then this is how we regard someone as reliable and someone not reliable.
Oh, dusre kanda ngada tang khowa la chi chai chinche la le ni wang chi chai chinche la ta kanda roa njuwa tin ro ja gore kanda mi tambo ji demba jino ta kanda le da nyimu shu chimbo ji le tin jwa ro gres roa tin jwa ro gres kanda khowa de la chi chinche la nyimu shwa de ro ja roa nyimu shwa de roa tembo ke yu maris pe tembo sina pe yu ke yo maris roa nyimu shwa de ro chai chinche la so mi nyamu ko wan se wan do se nyamu wan do ja sung sa pe ta ji de la nge so yo ma re se ro tembo ke yo ma re sa na ji jine pe ba le mi de tembo re mi de pe shiba ke cha kar shi na tambo tang sha ta ji da de ya bo wa kap to ka to la ya bo re de na ta ji de nyamu shi wan do cha de de shi da tembo ke yo ma re ro
Yeah, so as long as we we take rebirth due to karma and afflictions, it always change. There's nothing reliable, and it always change. So even though what I mentioned, even though if we apply the reliable words according to the worldly perceptions, then we regard someone reliable and someone not reliable, depends on whether the person is honest or not, etc. So even in general, an honest person, a reliable person is good. However, since and if the person, even a reliable person, if it is controlled by the afflictions, or if fall under the control of afflictions, even a reliable persons in the worldly way of think, in the worldly regards, even such reliable person change.
ta de ji la de ren do ta pin so to ba la yi ti mo ro wa to sa ne ma sa tong wa ji jin do wa ta de chang de le so wa ro pin so to ba la yi ti mo ro wa to sa ne ma sa tong wa si ta de ro wa ngan so to sa ne ma sa ti wa ta to me ji dong wa de ro wa to me ji dong wa de
yeah
yang de ne to me de ji wa si jin do wa
oh that's so yeah yeah so 당긴 강시에 바디 니바로 와이라
yi do nge ba me ba de ro ni ba nge ba me ba de ro
yeah so what I explained just now was regarding the second point, not the third point, sorry. And now that come to the third point, it is inappropriate to rely on the excellences you have achieved. You fall from high places to low ones.
ta kan da pin so ba to ba la yi ti mo ro wa to sa ne ma sa tong wa si ta de kan da de ni yin wo ro wa nga so pe jabu ki chiwa le ka longchi pisun so ba pe jabu la chiwa lang de ge yime ine che te la pe jabu shupo chimbo pisun so ba kara ine changsa kor pisun so ba longchi pisun so ba kari je ba ine ya che te la pe jabu ine cheme la ya tambo chan ro de ni yin wo re se ma sa ma san ro me sa ma san ro ta kan da che ge te la so so pe tambo yin ma ya cheme la pe longchi pisun so ba pe ro la yang mo jang yi je jin shi pe pisun so ba de cha ba yin wo re ta de shupo de pe piso longchi pisun so ba de kan di jina de la kan da yi de yo ma re se wo ra ta da shi na ro yi de yo ma re se to sa de ma sa ne to sa de ni 인조 초초라고 이래 세고래.
So regarding the third point, it is inappropriate to rely on the excellences you have achieved because you fall from high places to low ones. So it again shows that it is uncertain. So excellences once has achieved in the earlier part of life, for example, being born as a king, very rich, being born rich and have very great powers as well. So in the earlier part of life, could be a king. In the later part of life, can fall from his throne and then become a beggar as well. So similar, on the contrary, then a person was born as a beggar could become a king in the later part of their lives as well, and then become a god king, for example.
다 토메든 저 동아서 다 공도도 저 네바 메바서 저 냥도 단다 된단 잡고 마물래고 좋아 나도 지시 차버리 좋아 다 뒤질에 뒤다 이거 씨바 로발라 이디 모르와 진도와 로발라 이디 모르와 도메 반도와 진도와 다 뒤다 뒤 상들에서 로발라 이디 모르와는
Yeah, so in the later part of life, then one could become a god king. So so could become very powerful, become rich like a god king. Sorry, so it's not become a god king. And the fourth point is it is inappropriate to rely on companions because you have to go on without them in the end. So it is inappropriate to rely on companions because we have to go alone in the end. So because of karma, then one has many good friends in this life. So though you may have many good friends in this life, when one dies, then there's no one that you can bring along. There is no one you can bring along, then you have to go alone to next life. So you cannot bring helpers, you cannot bring assistants, so you have to go alone. So this regarding this point, I have explained in the context of death and impermanence.
this is the kind of so to me when you buy the kanda dungi karan yongona so jibu gnywa mato chenda la gosha jiya na boda chenda ke tobo ya bu shibi jinsin pa tiri dungi de nywa roba jiya na boda this kanji yo mare se go kanda rowa ta dungi karan yongona so jibu nyongore mato so gile rang sa bi le nami je debute to so gnywa mato de chenda la kanda se kanji tesa yo mare se go ta so ki shadong je mato wa ina.
So oneself accumulates the cause of suffering. Oneself has to have to experience the suffering, and if you do not confess the cause of suffering, then when the cause is ripened, then you have to experience the suffering alone. No matter even if you might have many good friends or helpers, assistants, they will not. These sufferings you have to experience alone and cannot be shared with someone else.
Oh, tendri tuguni jinga tugu tsema se udo. Tugu tsema kanda tendri cheba ina kora ama jil nima jile cheba ina kora ni tanda nga chi nuna chi te jes che ura ma do. Pachi tinyam da ndawu che mebs soda na jirwa. Oda tendri songza te kanda kora ni pe da tugu tsema ko pinja pe ngene tane kandi yina kora chi di te senga shin do gure soso ran chi bole gure. Tema chi kala pe te soso yang ngashi jindoya re ma soso jibu jindoya re ma do yang nga tsema ama jila nima jila nyang da jinjo isne ni ji jila tiloya da ji jila roba chiya ke yo ma re se go pe te ta rowa ta nga ama ma pugu tsema se da nima jila jinke da pe se ko deni da shida mambu marwa rowa o da deni ji ma ina kanda da dungi nyong kala soso jibon nyong gore ma do de ke gosha jiya yo ma re se go da de.
Yeah, so even a mother give birth to a twins. So even though it's a twin, then one when mothers give birth to twins, then one come after another, right? So one baby come out first, then followed by another baby. So it would be difficult for two babies to come out at once. So even though they are born on the same day, so one come out one after another. So what it means is a baby is born alone, and the same person the same sentient being has to die alone as well. So when we experience the suffering, oneself, the sufferings is to be experienced by oneself, by the persons only, and cannot be shared with someone else.
就是说，大刚才的印度啊，样样人上教啊是印度啊，当我说样样人上教啊对吧？但既然我说大家工作年报没报是的出了，他都是找不着事，既然说样样人上教啊是吧的，但样样人上教啊是，但教啊，教啊样呢样都练给吧，等到的是吧？但可以你了，你才新结了，连你的马帮才新结了，但头实际呢每个鸟给报道。 他刚才教人把搞完呢，今年都是教完浪着要马多的话，刚才样样的教完的过来也是我说人上教是，我机上嘛一百分多，刚刚了别，今年都是刚才人上讲的教完的过来也是我的，是吧？刚才俺说来的你们你帮忙对吧？呢，他来的电话给都是，如果认出了刚才过来接的教完的过来也是我的，是吧？他教完了，被几个几了参加，几个几了，被等到了嘛参加呢。 这刚才家里没了，这家里顶多了，这家里他了，我在等你接我，今年多少个人，过来是个多啊，我在来年你帮忙对吧？呢，两年的人上家娃是。
The third one is that you are reborn again and again. There seems to be no end to the continuity of births. Reflect in this manner again and again. So regarding the third point, you are reborn again and again, then it's very similar to the previous point regarding the uncertainty. So if the karma and afflictions are not abandoned, then one has to one has to reborn again and again, and so one has to take we have taken a rebirth on at the peak of the samsara and then down to the lowest hell. So the hell of unrelenting hell. So we have been taken numberless rebirths. So even if we were born once in the peak of samsara, then next life we could be born in unrelenting hell as well, because the karma and afflictions are not abandoned. And because of these karma and afflictions, then one take different types of form in the 6 realms. So in one lifetime, then you can be one can be born as a human beings. Next lifetime, one could be born as animal beings, and next lifetime, one could be born as a god.
这些的这常样是我把没的但不是你帮你找不的，这是忙不出多啊，出是那个主角多啊。我说的我了嘛，你把没把我们些吧，我们些吧这些多啊。也你把主能是吧？我主能了，我们些吧多啊，我们些不多啊。我在这些是吧？我把没不懂啊，是干的，是吧？那对我把没不懂啊，是对讲的对嘛？对领导我了嘛，对我吃嘛，是吧？
Yeah, so then the next point I'm going to talk about is about lacking satisfaction.
他讲的我把没被俺说的了哇，我把没把喜欢的讲的，听的是吧？俺说看的了，叫我浪才兴趣了，是吧？他就我播的谁的给了说吧，他说了呗，嘎子就中吧伊呢，单独呗几样家就中了嘛多，他车送嘛多吧去。 车早的什么的，但这个经济送他没过时的，他公布了，但我说脚步一呢，看到各自中吧一呢，但就是没过时的，好像公布确实的被公布是那的，是吧？公布是那的，他张步一呢，那他的张步一呢，几你各自托呢，单独人家没的呢，各自中呢，这两码多，但就是没过时的，好像公布的，但我们明白是俺是确实明白了，我的，讲到了我的。 초심해봐, 좋아. 초심해봐. 어디래? 뭔가 미비동아. 단도 찌라서는 단도 찌니 라나서 단도 말아야 등에. 찌라나 니 말아야 등에. 니라나 수 말아야 등에. 어다 등이 용거 로아 뭔가 미비동아. 소소 뭔가 미바이나 대간다 등에 주마치 발레는 거 간다.
So regarding this, the lacking satisfaction, then as when we're born in samsara, then we enjoy the happiness come from getting clothes, getting food, getting the objects of enjoyment. So even though we get one, then we always ask for more. Then when we have 1, then we want 2. When we have 2, then we want 3. So there's no limit in the things that we want. Then we always want more, and we always ask for more as well. We're looking for more as well. It will be very rare for it will be very rare if someone says that, oh, I have enough. So such contentment is very rare in samsara. So because when we want have even a king, they have many things already. They have so much wealth, possessions, etc. They always want more. So when we have 1, then we want 2. When we have 2, then we want 3. So we say that, oh, I have enough. So such contentment or satisfaction is very rare. So when we have 1, then if we do not get the second one, or we do not get 2, then we suffer of not getting 2. That is what we want. So even if we got 2 already, then we suffer again because we do not get the third one.
간다 nomba 미비 등아데 요하게 짜와데 가와 키우르스나 nomba 미비 등에 요하게 짜와데 랑 게세 랑 게기세 로아 랑페 게세 랑 지보 게페 다 데지 체도 데리페 랑 게세데 데리 게세데 도 마테나테 간다 nomba 메바 데 간다 등에 용으로 해서 보라 로아
게셈세 데 랑튼 차보다 보래
게세세와 다랑 진지기 베 센테레 랑 지보 체도페 다 대와다 데치다 간디나 찬사페 다 랑체도 로아 오디 다 된다와데 게시데페 휴첨보지 요바 송자 된 몸바 베 조시 제도요 말에 조시 제도요 말로와 오들이 조시 제도요 말에서 그러와
So all this is because of this selfishness or self-centeredness. Because of this selfish or self-centeredness, then we want happiness for oneself only. So because of this self-centeredness or selfish, we want happiness for oneself. And because of this selfish or self-centeredness, then we do not feel we are not contented.
차 망보 연주지 동바이나 또 공세 공다 공리의 작은 말에서 같이 동반에 단도 양자 먹히네 말 동구야 작으랬어 버 같이 동나 단도 동구야 아마도 공리의 작은 말에서 버때 로와 배 카고야 같이 공바이나 추차구지 동바이나 문티의 단도 양세야지 통구야 아마도 대 공리의 작은 말에 대나시 배 원바미비 다 등에서 와대 다 소속이 조시 매바이나 대 대가롱 롱 같이 제바이나 단도 쳐서 와서 자원이 한 말이 있거든. 로아.
If we do not have contentment, then we are like when we are very thirsty, then we drink salt water. We drink salt water. So the more you drink, the more thirsty you become. So you will by drinking salt water will never quench your thirst. So similar like this, if we do not have contentment, the more you enjoy, the more you want.
오다데 ngomba 미비 간다 게세 대왕게 ngomba 미비 때 간다 다 제보이나 장보이나 된디게 노롱제 간디지나 베 최마심바 대왕게 다 동의리 용으로 해서와 대 동의데 용으로 해서 다 대가 나시 대월 마디 송도와 차파 제반지 다디 초와 대와 페모체네스디 이 창마디와 내가 가서 대카도 시사든 창마로와 희야 차바 제반지 다디기 초와 대와 페모체네 동아시 제발라 데일로 지와 인지레 도와 오디 다들이 가서 배 단다 초와 대와데 이제 신이 거와 단다 초와 대와데 가서 배 된디다 배 하장 담보 가서 배 세롱제라서 받지 니오데 세라 대와 전부 쉬지 내가 제거로와 대와 전부들이 양자 대두네 양자 대와래야지 양자 두디 대 간사지라 대 롱제 가제 라바이나 소소게 배 원바 메와 성자 같이 두바이나 대 까뚜까뚜지 대와지 레레다마다 대 간사 동안을 주는 거리세고로와 간사 동일은 주는 거리서와 동일은 주는 거리에서 동일 간다 동일 시제발라 대와 글로 지와래 마도 등이 싸워라마티 빙온지 대담비 대와니요 말해서 왔더니 대와데 대담비 대와케요 말해 카투페세 소소게 셀 대와 땀지르에서 카투 be lansa be dewa sam jere ma to ro ne kap ji dewa sam jere ma to da dewa de ngwe ne chi dewa di bai na dewa de la ka che long che bai na chi yang ja dewa shu che ro go da ngwe ne tan bi dewa chi bai na ro dewa de la long ka che bai na yang ja be dewa de be shu che ro ma to pa dong ne jo ro yi wa ya ma ngwe ne tan bi dewa ina.
Yeah, so because of this selfish or the self-centeredness, then we are not contented. So even a king, if they do not have contentment, even a beggar do not have contentment, they suffers. No matter how much you already have. Then he says, so regarding the lacking satisfaction, then he says, furthermore, most of the present happy feelings that increase our attachment are happy mental states that arise with respect to a relief of suffering. There is no intrinsic happiness. So intrinsic happiness, you also call the ultimate happiness or the actual happiness. So that is unrelated to the eliminations of suffering. So so when we enjoy a delicious food or when we possess many wealth possessions, then we feel happy, right? So in order to enjoy the happiness again and again, then we become then we have no longer, then we do not have contentment again because we want to enjoy that happiness again and again. Then we become a lack of contentment. So though when we enjoy the delicious food, when we enjoy the nice clothing, etc., we may experience temporary happiness. However, eventually it will become suffering because it is not ultimate happiness. It is not happiness by nature. It is not the actual happiness. So if it was actual happiness, so the more you enjoy it, the more happiness it becomes. However, it will not become sufferings. So that is actual happiness. So if it's not an actual happiness, so the more you enjoy it, then eventually it will become suffering.
Oh, that is the kanda. Nganzo dirwa pe nganzo pe ndo tabi dunga pe komba mambu je shibuji kale khasna da lansa tisma deva ina dewa chigruwa ti dewa lewdi ndo tabi dunga de pa khatu sen urwa khatu pe dunga de pa sen gore da kanza chila ya pe dunga de se ke yugo mara ya kanza chila ranja dunga selle ngo chugo ma de cheta ya dunga de lewor rwa 다 동의세 다도 동아 자원이 동의를 세요 말까 대화 동의를 세요 말와 다 대화데 대체를 담보 대화지 찍으려 돼야 대화를 찍은도 사야 주름보 대화이나 야 대화 동의야 양자 데이터비 동의를 내고 대체답이로와 어 든득이 동의를 내고 해서 간다 다 든득이 연구해야 간다 가서 대화데 응원이 대화 많이 비준지 들어와 응원이 대화 대한담비 대화 많이 비준지 들어
So why do we say that walking, etc., is not ultimate happiness, is not an actual happiness? For instance, if you suffer because you have walked too much, a happy mind arises due to sitting down. So if you walk a lot, then you're very tired. So sitting down, then you feel happy. You feel happy, right? You feel comfort as well. So the suffering seems like is eliminated. However, if you sit for a long time, you sit for too long, then it becomes sufferings as well. So from the beginning to you sit for too long, then the suffering is not eliminated. Suffering is not eliminated at all. So it's just that you feel happy when the sufferings decrease. Then when you sit for too long, then it becomes sufferings again. So this is why we say that sitting, walking, etc., they are not intrinsic happiness or the ultimate happiness or the actual happiness because of this.
Odati kanda dilma tsamaji jaja mudwarwa ndowa da nduba da nyawa da sawa da tunga da nima da trima da temba su dewa cheba tuzurwa lung cheba na dewa kanda dewa chempe da ndo gure de dewa chempe de ndo ke yo mari se warwa ngaso pe ndoi dewa ndubi dewa nyai dewa sai zawa da tungi dewa da nima la debi treg dewa trisila debi dewa da tuzul ngaso kapto khatu chipe dewa legruwa dewa legure da tindi dewa zo kanda rentana They can't do it like Genogram, doing a Genogramato, Deva Tempo Diaki or Mariese, Tanganzo Koi Devala, Idi or Maris Tenda de Koi Devala, Koi Devas Vadela Idi or Mariesua.
So happiness appears to arise gradually while the great previous suffering gradually ceases. However, it is not intrinsic happiness or the ultimate happiness, for if you sit too much, again, then you produce sufferings as before. So just as sufferings increases to the same extent as you are subjected to the causes of suffering, so too should walking, sitting, lying, eating and drinking, staying in the sun, staying in the shade, and the like increase your happiness to the same extent that you indulge them, if those were causes of the actual or ultimate happiness. However, it appears that if these are extended long term, then only more sufferings is produced. So they are not the ultimate happiness, because the more you enjoy it, then it becomes sufferings. You will not experience greater happiness. So so though when you enjoy them, like if you walk too much, then you sit down, you have that happy feeling, then that is that is only temporary. So if you sit for too long, then again it becomes suffering again. So this is why we say that there is nothing reliable in samsara. Samsara happiness is not reliable.
Nimba susi denga samba shi si chindwa. Susi denga samba la shi. Tangi susi denga mei denga lama denga lai denga de shi si saji shindwa. Da shi ne dambo nge susi denga denga zi jibu chunga zi shi sarwa. De nga shi sindwa se wa jibu chunga zi shi sar. Da nimba mei denga de ma di shindwa.
So contemplating the suffering of the individual realms, this has 4 points: the suffering of the 3 lower rebirths, the suffering of humans, the sufferings of demigods, and the sufferings of gods. The suffering of the 3 lower realms, this has already been explained in small scope.
Nyai dunga te idash dunga tuli dunga shisarwa dadi anja shimo kibachi dadi kanda ngaso di katun ma mei dunga de ngaso tre kongda chadangi reba yidamuwa da nongchi la so bat kandi na so kaleji ne pe shobu chone sewa de so pe kaleji ne ngai dunga oda de nang so ba ngaso dadi ngaso tanda chuso nang pe suzo ge 초계 대라 간다로와 달래가 배 등의 휴천부 연구로와 초계 대라로와 단다 내가 늘리기 쳐도 배 등의 휴천부 연구 다 뜻은 가서 가도 미긴 통화야죠 학고야죠로와.
So regarding the sufferings of the 3 lower rebirths, sufferings of hell, sufferings of hungry ghosts, and sufferings of animals, so we have already explained, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. So then the sufferings of humans. This consists in the sufferings of hunger and thirst, the unpleasant contact with heat and cold, and frantic activity and fatigue. So even we born as a human beings, we suffer as well. We suffer because of thirst and hunger, and we suffer because when we come in contact with those object of hot or object of cold, then we also suffer. And then we also suffer because become very tired to collect the possessions, to accumulate wealth, and then for the sake of work, for the sake of business, then we become very tired as well. So then those are the sufferings experienced in the human realms. So in addition, then you should understand the 7 types of suffering: birth, aging, illness, death, and so forth, by means of the previous explanations. So in the context of 8 types of sufferings, then we have already discussed about these types of sufferings.
Wala we dungata arwa ta mi shu kanda jobu china ya be so so ge chowa chedere kansa tele pe dunga nan so ba ji ngure srwa ngure 다 간다 든두기 등아 나시 간다로와 든두기 등아 나시 간서 든두이나 답에 샤츠데 손나보지나 든두 체와게 중앙 세네 사바 그러와 중앙 체중배 찌기 찌세네 사바 든디 망부 용어로와 다든지 미이나베 다 간다 미기베 니도 체중하게 니도 체중하게 베 찌기 찌라베 든디 투세탄 등이 난서바 용어로와 등은 난서바 용어리 든디 손자 다 간다 코안들라마 제 차이 신제라 다 간다 등이 지다 장시지 마도 등에 매바 자원이네 그 로스타요 말단 코안들라마 제 차이 신제라 보다 든디에서 가서 멀어 등아 난서바 다 지다 용어리 해서 그럼 다 담보듯이
Furthermore, the discourse on the collection says, all the sufferings of lower rebirths also appear to exist for humans. They are troubled by sufferings like beings in hell, are subjects of Yama by their poverty. So subjects of Yama refer to the hungry ghost. And also have the sufferings of animals. Powerful ones oppress the weak by force, inflicting harm on them. They are just like raging rivers. So even one is born as a human being, they experience the sufferings like those experienced in hell, like that we experience the sufferings, as I resemble the sufferings in hell, hot, cold, etc. And we experience the sufferings. We experience sufferings brought by poverty. Then there is similar to the hungry ghost, and then we experience the sufferings like an animal beings as well, like the big animals will eat the small one, and then the powerful the animals with greater strength and will bully or oppress the weaker ones. So we even one is born as a human being, one suffers like an animal beings as well. So as long as one is born in samsara, it is in the nature of sufferings.
어디 송고당 아주 시작발에 맞이 송고도와 다 간다로와 초라 이지 등에데 다만 하나 리체스스 진도와 다 시작이 간다 된다 디송고도 미초나 미초도 집어들어라 간다 다 간다 지다 롱제이나리 미 간다 피순소바 그 롱제 노롱제 피순소바 저 시키지 시고로와 노롱제 피순소바 된도기 미 초도서라 간다 다 신지 동아데 간다로와 마용을 해서 신지 동아들어와 리지 동아데 신지 동아니 나로 딩간다 신지 동아데 디즈 마용을 해서 그래서 리지 동아들라 콜피 리지 동아데 다 리기 차와다 조고도 받아 로아 차와다 저 자막은 딘지 야보요 해서 저 자막은 딘지 야보요 와선사 다 미초데서라 간다 이지 동아데 예 마요래 이지 동아 세와들란 딘지 요 메케샤 말했지 이지 동아들라 딘지 요바탄지 등에 세투요 말 이지 등에 세투요 말 당아서 리긴 차바다 조고도 받 동아란 차게 차이 동아 베드서 간다 다 미초 농지 비슷도 봐서 저 가도 등아지 라바 가도 세투요 봐 그래서 세투요 로와 어떤지 선자 때들라 간다 등아데 저 이지 등아데 휴치야 요래서 담보되시로와
And in 400 stanzas, higher ones have mental suffering. So higher ones, then you can understand it as those who have greater possessions, wealth, etc. So that is what a higher ones refers to. So they have mental sufferings. So compared to the physical sufferings, they have a greater the sufferings they experience are more mental sufferings. Why? Because their physical sufferings can be eliminated by their possessions, can be eliminated by their wealth. Like for example, those physical sufferings such as being very cold, being very hot, or hunger or thirst. So those can be eliminated by their wealth, by their possessions. So however, the wealth and possessions they possess cannot eliminate mental sufferings.
어디지 다미 페바나나 시고로와 다 담아바나나 다미 페바 담아바도 소라 간다 소베 동아유사 소 지기등 가서 리진 차와다 조고 또바다 다 롱지 그래서 비슷하바 매바치 이 동아 소도 딜레버스로와 그도 되게 동아 가투페 동아 휴청부도 설리고 그래서와 오다코 지나 이지 동아 요다 요리 되기나 갑도지 배 차타와 저거 또 사야 말아봐 다 등징아서 배 이후에라 오다데 소데 지나 미 초다 페바리냐 좀미 페바세와들 리지 등아도 슈 저 리그레에서 다데로와 지난 거미 초다 페바니가 가서 이지 등아 여바도 집어지 소로와 민갈도 여디 여로와.
And lower ones have physical pain. So higher ones is referred to those who have a greater wealth and possessions, right? Lower ones refer to those who have lesser wealth and possessions. And because of have lesser or do not or lacking of those necessities, wealth or possessions, then they experience sufferings that is more physical pain or more physical sufferings. It doesn't mean that the higher ones do not have a physical pain and the lower ones do not have the mental sufferings. Both higher ones and lower ones, they have two types of sufferings. However, in compared to another, then higher ones have greater mental suffering, lower ones have greater physical pain.
Dona wuchi shune kilesna ko pedo gura shata ko dungi yoba hakuru da roa dungi yoba hakuru da pedo gura o da didina wuchi roa ta kanda enju dunga sewa da kanda ngazo se shimbo sane pene dewa deji shibi chibo yondo de chine se ma chetana te kanda dunga chan gu roa diso roa enju dunga sewa da diso toma kanda susugi kanda deji de nyongba chewo roa
The Dungegi Tangkue Dunge na Deniga Degi de Jomgiro.
That's also Numare la Kanda Deji Zopa and Jumba Chiogoro.
Yeah, so every day our happiness are destroyed by the sufferings and sufferings of change. And the first type of sufferings of suffering, even sentient beings, they can recognize that they know about it as well. So not only recognized by human beings, even animal beings, they can recognize it. So, for example, if a person come with a stone, a person throw stones at the animal beings, then the animals will run away, right? Because they can recognize it as the sufferings of sufferings. And the sufferings of change, like we enjoy a very delicious food, then we feel happy, right? We have these happy feelings arise. However, the more if we eat too much, then it becomes the sufferings. So that is an example of sufferings of change. So every day, our happiness are destroyed by these two types of sufferings.
Sumba Lama is doing a dosua. That Kanda Lama is high pendulum, the Lama is doing the so the high pendulum, the Tadogi, you don't doing it. Delatin, Hala Tabana, the Kanda, that's also Liche by the Tawata, the need doing a mambuch, that did what, so Lama is doing it.
Next is sufferings of demigods. It is said that the demigods are mentally tormented by jealousy that cannot bear the wealth of the gods. When based on that, they fight with the gods, then they experience many sufferings of having their bodies chopped up, split, and the like. So so the main sufferings experienced by demigods are the jealousy, and then because of this jealousy, then they fight with the gods, then they experience different types of sufferings of their bodies being chopped up, etc.
Rin Rabo in Sarako, Lama is out. Mazo Najipe, then Roanga show with the Lama in the high Kunto Zurua, Roanga Shivkala. The Lama is out and Mazu Migi, Jitimil and Dewache by Dewache Devo or Sigua. Mazu Mitaber and Dewache by Dewache Devo, who Chinsanima Duakanda, Mazu Chugundanima, Chinsanima, Tanso Zora, Rija Uranima, you will Chinsan Nima and do a Lama is out. Lama is out and also. Jedang Rabo de Jidam Migi, Jedang Rabo Yo is a roa. Lega Jedang Rabo.
可是他们一点做迷
Lama
当心。
哦，米那些等于那个阶段找不忙不有意思了，是吧？
你
那他可别看到查动着修全部修起来多啊，看到但他的可是人找不着，他在外的他们那个的人找不着在，但他那边人生涨价进来，但他的农具切换强的啥的，他的修补强的啥的，他的边搞的进来开始可能你边马接完了我等你修出不就多，出不进来，但他们一些我的了东西忙不修不了一下。다 간다 코츠 추바 제우디 다 간다 하마 이르서도 하츠 추바 제우디 다 하마 이르서 간다 깜바다 라바 투바이나 다 동아 차체와 여바지 시구문도와 마시바지 양양자 깜바 라바야 수구도 하고서 양 수구도와 간다 니 마고바이나 되고서 레라부시 도구문도와 레라부시 도구 든디진에 다 동에 마부 쉬우저세워 내가 차도 전부 쉬우는도와
So demigods is is similar to god beings. So if when we count 6 types of sentient beings, there's a usual way to count 6 types of sentient beings. Then gods and demigods are separate. So when we say when we count 5 types of sentient beings, then demigods then group with the gods beings or group with the gods realms. And these demigods, their behavior is quite similar to human beings as well. Their way of doing things are quite similar to human beings as well. So they're also jealous. So gods are very rich. They have very many things to enjoy. And however, demigods, they always want to compete with them. They have this jealousy of their great wealth, etc. Then they fight with them. So when they fight with them, demigods, they also experience many types of sufferings as well. When they fight, then they use weapon, right? So then their limbs are being cut or torn apart, etc. Then they experience sufferings. When their hand cut, then they have great pain. When their legs are cut, then they also have great pain. Yet they do not die. And then their limbs grow back, and then they fight again. Then their limbs being cut again. Then they experience sufferings. So this is why we say even demigods experience many different types of sufferings as well.
어쩌다 라마 있어도 장보도 여기 있어요. 그 쉐로도 된바. 장보도 누워. 장보도 이나 그 남이지 디바데 셰첨보 간다. 가서 산지기 취를 배냥에 같이 제바이나. 다 콜라페 덴방우스 토닝우스는 또 투야기 그 람토토야 된디기 자원이네 용토문도 세대가라. 저는 용토고 말했어요. 그러와 딘디 남이지 디바 슈첨보시 디기 간다 그 된디기 니바나 보천 레우무도 메이서 간다 세텔라 덴바 토양기 토닝우스는 또 투야 파필랑 공바토야 니춘이요 메이서 콜라.
And however, demigods are quite they are intelligent. They have intelligence. So, however, because of their ripened obstructions, then they practice Buddha Dharma on that basis or in that lifetime as a demigods. They cannot achieve the path of higher being. They cannot see the truth. They cannot realize emptiness.
라 이동아 삼바다 간다 라마 이동아 취차와 지로와 다 이동아들라 녀리 이동아다 칸코미 라 이동아 니 시구도와 다 담보 녀리 이동아들라 송샤군다 추포와다 동 이동아 바고 이동아 제바다 저와다 세바다 주비 이동아 송도와 다디 담보도 마셔이로와.
The next is sufferings of gods. This has 2 points: the sufferings of desire realm gods and the sufferings of gods of the uppermost realms or the higher realms. So the sufferings of desire realm gods, this has 3 points: the sufferings of dying, transmigrating, and falling. The second point is the sufferings of jealousy and the sufferings of being chopped up, split, killed, and banished.
다 담보들라 간다로와 다 추포와다 뚱이 등아들라 추포이 등아다 니 오마도 등아서 다 간다 녀하들라 니도와 다 간다 로와 하인 대발에 제발에 쇼이 대와 추보이 치대가 동안 딜레쇼이 다 동아치 지원주로세 다도 간다는 녀리기 등아들 녀빌하기 등아들 단 추보다 뚱이 등아들 니 오마 뚱이 등아들 다 간다 하인 녀하라 동아치 휴지 되지 샤워 다 간다 치대기 등아서 와디 주보다 다 동이 동아서 네 오마마 동이 동아 되게 시고로 내라를 간다 다 미게 든로다 아 냐와다 이다든지 맞지는 들어와 다디 제일 마셔이로와.
So the first point, the sufferings of dying, transmigrating, and falling, again has 2 points. The sufferings of dying and transmigrating, and the sufferings of falling to a lower abode. So the sufferings of dying and transmigrating, at the time of dying and transmigrating, when a god has seen the five signs of death, the sufferings that springs from this is far greater than happiness. So this is considered the 5 signs of death when the 5 signs of death appears to a god beings, a desire god beings, then they suffer. And this is considered the greatest sufferings experienced by a desire god. And because, then the greatest sufferings experienced by desire gods, and the sufferings of falling to a lower abode is after they die, then they fall into a realms of a hungry ghost, hell, or even reborn as an animal being.
But the endure the Kandalai Dungandili Dungatipe. Chidang Hatila Hatsalape Kasumba Silagunda Kasumba.
Kasumba Labna.
Kasumba Halape Nandi Yonda mi Kasumba in Mitaudoa. Kasumba Tangasumba. Tangasum Kasumba Serua. Hakuna mi Kasumba Tangasum Logo agency the Karsana. Tal had the Sogin Nuishin of Sum Roa. Hatsula career singishna. Chiwangama Jukandi Peso Tandala Chiwa Limbade. The Chiwangama the Shimudua. Nuishitune Shitundua the Hatsu Petan Chikalang as a Chidile Udgas. Chida Hatsu Kasumba Sevade. Chiwangama the Shingri Esore.
Kiwangama the Shingore.
Chiwangama Beo, that's also be Jukandi Latin Hachi with the Lake and Digistans, Chiwangama Shigre, Chiwangaming Shigmar Esor.
O Kiwangama to any the Kiwangama and the Shingo.
Shigmar Esor. So Shigmaris, that's also the Chiwangama the Shigures. That Chiwangama Cheta, Tadika the Chiwa the Kandi in the Shigures and that. Sit and that Colorwa. Chiwangama, Saint Digi Chiwa the Kandi in the Shigures. That Chiwa Gemma the Kawachi with the Shigures. Chiwa Gemati. That Chiwa Gemma the Kawachi with the Shingre, Chiwa Jimmy Gemma to Shingmaris. Or that Kasumba Solo is didn't do. Kasumba Sewada, Chiwangama the Shebashi. Tandaki Chiwa and the Shebashi. Chiwa Gemma the Shebashi. This was Ala Kasumba, it is to Smitaudoa.
Kasumba, because I'm going to sum Yoba.
Oh, that's Soyaba, or Soyaba,
Changasumba Taboro.
or Tangasumba, Chiwangama the Shepa. Tandaki Chiwa the Kandi with the Shebashi. Chiwa Gemma Kawachi with the Shebashi. Yachiwa Jimmy Gemma Mashiwa Mare, Kawachi me. Yachiwa Namingama Suya Shinguya Mare.
Yeah. And these desire gods, they are there's another name to call them as well. So a rough translation is like a tree, a tree, then plus a at the back. So treer. So why do we say that? Why do we call them a treer? Is because they know they have 3 clairvoyances. They have 3 clairvoyances. So they know about this life. They know about their immediate past life as well. So what cause and what cause they have accumulated that that resulted in this life as a desire gods. So they know immediate past life, yet they do not know past life. So anything that beyond immediate past life, they do not have clairvoyance. They do not know about it. So they know about immediate past life. They know about this life, and then they know about their immediate next life as well. So however, they do not know about next life. They do not know about it. They only know about immediate next life. So, and because of knowing immediate past, present, and immediate next life, then they are being called a treer, a person who has these 3 clairvoyances.
Well, the news on the Ganda also Hatsola Dakanda, Ndelatsola Chitinga, and Chitinga and the Lama to Kankumagi Suda Sumila Yumari. The Yomari Chitinga through that and the Ganda Ndelatsola also. Cheating at the level that don't cheat the cheating at the Manchi shot ding no, the liver, shading dal ha ge shading sina nga chu mchela ja nga chu milo la shaga ta pe mambo shure ro ta tanga mambo shure ji da ti ma ge ba ji ro e ta ga chi re mo 다 만층이랑 안순 지디들래 거고 잘하츠라 만층이 샤디라 또 지디들래 지디가 담바 로도와 다 리지 카도 모두 봐 띵라 마가와 메도근 티와니 바차 게라 टमा차바 리랑에 미 던중 와세 예송도와 지대가데
And these fine signs of death only appears to desirarium gods. So these are sufferings experienced by the desirarium gods only. So it doesn't appear to the gods of higher realms, to form or formless realms. So they do not have these fine signs of death. And what are these fine signs of death? And they are hideous complexion, dislike for one's seat, wilting of one's flower garlands, one's clothes becomes smelly, and sweat. So which until then they did not exist, appearing on one's body. So 7 days before a desirarium god dies, these 5 signs of death will appear to them. So however, these 7 days is not the 7 days in the human realm. So it is the 7 days in the desire realm.
지디들 레오디 가르저 코자 만층이 샤딩글라 다 간다 지디 소소 지디들 딜레오도와 딜레오디 간다 로와 리지 카도 바다 나지 가서 리드들페 이여다 베 인제부 슈도와 기단 딜라즈로와 이여제 바다 베 슈부지 시진 슈부도와 다 딘디차오도 다 리지 카도 전동에 바 차르고도와 지디들 레오디 로와 리지 카도데 간다 안동에 바 차르와 딘디치다 다 간다 띵라 덴데메바 마가와 로와 띵라 덴데메바 마가와 다 동에 치슈지다들의 단절합서라 덴데 마가와 다 메도 근처와 나지나 메도 근처와 전니바 차야모도 코페 슈버기 페 데치 슈버레도 메도 근처와 저페 트자와 메 처마페 하나 따바리페 사바마도 니바 차야면죠 덴제도와 다 담부디치더와.
So this is the fine signs. When fine signs of death appears to a desirarium gods 7 days before their death, then they consider this is the greatest sufferings experienced by a desirarium gods. So the first sign is a hideous complexions. They become very ugly. So at first, when before their death or before these fine signs of death appears, they have very nice, good looking. They have this, their body radiates light. They have this charisma, etc. However, when these fine signs of death appears, then they becomes ugly. And they no longer wanting to sit on their seat anymore. So they don't like their seat anymore. They don't want to sit on it. And even their even the desirarium gods, they have these flower garlands, very fresh, very nice, give off a very nice sense, etc. However, when these 5 signs of death appears, then their flower garlands become dried up, wilt.
메도 근처와 니바차와 다 게라 토마차와 나지페 게라 토말레라 차야면도고 베 슈브랑 사마랑 시시브레도와 다 리랑님이 되다문한조와 다 리라피나 지마다 원하다 들린다 모달리고도와 오다도 소페 동아 슈브지렌도 고슬.
So not only that, their clothes used to be very fresh, no smell at all, smell nice. And then when these fine signs of death appears, even their clothes become very smelly. So it was very clean, then it becomes dirty. And then they also sweat.
다 꾸칭 앞에 치티 포사레 중앙서 나자라 디지 데다 까마 카히지 베 샤바이나 까마 카히지 데로 지다세 쇼에 제바이노 다 따와니 짤 짜고 말을 세고도와 코란스 루시지 차서딘데 라세 와텔 베 동아 치슈 다 코란 치보 베 나차 두자 가서 지다 나차 괴니다 고치 짤 데마루아 딘다 오다 차르고도와
라 나차가리
나차 괴니 지나 가서 짤 데마라 미시나 짤 데마라 괴니다 고치나 괴니 요시마라
제
오, 근데 대나시 차는고도 달하라 치디들레 차디 다 배 조보 좀 나지 배 쇼 하상의 조보 좀 비다고 된데 이바이나 단 치딜레데 꾸치 나자라 까마 카시 데스나 페샤바이나 든지 데스나 데로 지금 모두 다 코라슬라 배 매도근 치와 진짜서다 파아 지우디 장르보니 주바게 젤라 다네 파 유로고도와 그런 짤서 맞아바지 장르보고 주바 젤라 매도게 진짜서 사바스 다네 코라슬라 파 유로 아마도 라바기츠 짤 쿠네 자와니 자고문도 어따 든디페 동아디 휴첨보 요레 메기마 니 오마라 치니 등에 같이 오면 뒤 파샤 단다 코나 디 치디 레비칼라 페 동아 휴첨보 쇼레세 고레
So when 5 signs of death appears, even their best friend, so desire gods also they have best friend, good friends. So when these 5 signs of death appears, their good friend or their best friend don't want to come near them. So even the person, even the desire gods who is going to die, then say that, oh, I'm going to die already. So please, you are my best friend. Please stay with me for a few minutes. Even their best friend is a desire gods, yeah. So they don't want to stay near them as well. So, and he's like a person who has an infectious disease, then they don't want to go near the person or go near the patients. So it's something like this. And even if other desire gods, they want to give flowers or give ornaments to the desire gods who is about to die, when they give, they use rod or stick. They just put the ornaments or the flowers on one end, then they just use the stick, then they pass the ornaments or pass the flowers to the desire gods who is about to die. So even they throw from the far, because they don't want to go near them, and don't mention that they pass the ornaments or flowers by hand. So so don't mention about those desire gods is the sufferings experienced by them when they see that they are going to fall into a lower realms. So just while they are still in the desire gods, still in the desire realms, they already experience great sufferings.
니오마 되게 님바 니오마 뒤동아데 간다 시링에 좀 송도와 시링에 간다 하인지데 되잖아 간다 세페르데 다 게이 라마 스도 게자 라마가 힘해봐이나 다 데마타다 간다 랑라 랑완 되잖아 요 말레스 데 든도다 냐와다 이다 든도서 간다 로지라 딘디 쳔고 그래서 그래 와 그래서 쳔고 그래서 디치지
The next sufferings is sufferings of falling to a lower abode. In the same way, letter to a friend says, as they transmigrate from the world of the gods, in the event that nothing virtuous remains, so not much or no virtuous remains, then they veer without control into the plights of animals, hungry ghosts, and beings of hell. So because of not much virtue left or no virtue left, then they will go to the 3 lower realms.
다 베텐디기 하라 간다 데지디 휴첨보 제로와 다 데지 시버제네 데 간다 야 민티니 야 게자 사야 되리 레몬도 하고 베 데지 지원가마고 세나 사야 되기 롱제 데디 세나 되기 롱제 치네 데 데지 피수 서바뇨 다 간사지라 간다 마 치테데 레오디 다 응아마 게자 하마든다 카시르 레준즈라 티스마도 데디 연조 공부를 와 게자 하마 공부를 시부를 해서 지다 레준지 마도와 오다 든디지 레슨지 게자 하마 티지나 데 제와라 티세 제와 상사라 티 차이 사람마도 다때다 만치리데 페 게자 하마 요 말이세 거래 게자 그나라 론지 참그세 거와 오 든디 인사레
Yeah, so desire gods, they experience, they enjoy a great happiness. They are using, they experience the result. They are using, they enjoy the happiness resulted from their previously accumulated merits. So, however, it's very rare that those desire gods they will continue to accumulate roots of virtue. It will be very rare. So when they're about to die, most probably they have no virtue left. So even if those desire gods they have a little bit of virtue left, is very rare.
내 간다 사트는 아주 지티들레오에 소소 치가라 간다 다 메게 소소 마 제와다 가와 진도 원데 하고 고도와 They are going to Cantarua, Penawa, that and Kawachiguna, Teledemachi, that the Yipe Sosola Petala, Tarsus, Kanjipe, Robachini Marat, and Nigidungachi. That may get you on Yamba, Nawa, that and Kawachiguna, teach you what happened in the Nigidungachi. That the Dungan is just what she wouldn't do. That day, Manzo Jawakaza, Jansoina Chi inside. That the Nigi Latsula Chiwalandia, Manso, debut meeting. Money mother chicken in Dama Hijin at the Tendichiwan in a Gasa Resin, that the New Roa.
La Carete Tamatamati.
Matun Devi Mitla, Manichi Matan Deshigmena, a Pola Inanda, Mola Inanda, Tendichi Pe, Manichi Bojinda Mahibaina, Tendichi Lanrochina, Yasa Resco, Sarso Chivalini, where the knee is Sungdwa.
Because Chibo did a doing machine way na.
Oh, Manichi Mother Shinda Kakin, that machine get Tendichi, Pengas Devi Me, O Mochi Tendichi, Pechivalin Roshina Yasa Rese, and Logi Roa.
Ali, that's all. Yeah, so on top of the sufferings they experience when 5 signs of death appears, then they also suffers by knowing where they're going to reborn, like being born as an animal, being born as a hungry ghost, or being born as a hell being. Then they suffers as well. So on top of the sufferings they already have, then by knowing where they are going to born, then they again suffers. They have suffered greater sufferings. So, compared to being born as a desirarium gods, it is better to born as a being, born as a human being who only knows about reciting Mani mantra. So compared to that, even born as a human beings who only know about reciting Mani mantra. So compared to being born as a desirarium gods, born as a human being who only knows about reciting Mani mantra and do not know about other mantras, then this is even better. The later one is even better.
Sanji Jondi de Pe, Sunji Zasuna, Dawasun, a Shubikala Roa, Sunji Zasuna, Pe Kalangan, Naji, Labu Tishigalma, Pea, Tishin Shiwa. That they got Sanji Pig, Sunji Zasuna, that young with Tala Yepena, Kanda Yasun, Dawa, the so Kanda Shuni Roa, Dawasun Shuni. They Kanda De Shubikalangan, Kanda Hachilan Chitilene, the Kanda Magi, Mamaging and Rolama. Migima Roa Papa Kila Chiwalang, but Digi Koron Chitele with the Hako with the Tadunga Chambu Shibuchi, the Koran, the Lando Jine Sanji should be called Kideroa. The Sanji should be called Kiodi, the Sanji Shunipe, Roa, the Sanji Shunipe, Jita Duma, the Kanda Sanji, the Kandaroa. This somebody is a Chilan Dindong is Kanda. Nanjami Sungayoa, Nanjami Sungate, Sudo Nanja Maswa. That's the number Jamal Sungat, Sanji, Migi Sunji Zasan Hala, somebody Sigur. Tatsura. That day and Jambaina, the Migima Kanang and Rotsulatia, Kagres. The Sanji here is somebody Sanji Matsutule, somebody so not. Najami Sungating, Tutu Najami is a Tutu number Jami Son as what Zudoli Shui. Kanda Sanji Zudoli Pek and somebody Sigur. Najita and the Kashi or what Sanji Sudoli Chuat and the Kashi. O Tananja Misungate, Sanji Gitsudoli, somebody else go. Was Dul to take on the Hala, Dima, somebody else go.
Did Tundruki Kiwa de Kawarwa?
That did Tinuki the car, take on the Sanjila, Kunchola Jando Cheguat. Take on the Kunchola Jando Cheguat, they tending out somebody else go. That is so the Migima Chiwa Lama Giba. That your Lama give me a Angel High, in a Timason Chiwa Lanchuagi, the Niki gets a sound race go.
Timasum.
Tenso Yanja, Tenso Jituagi, the Deji pieces of Yanja, Timason, Lonchiagi. And the last Zope, June was Shibiki, Deji pieces of Yora, that Chiva Lansana, June, the Roa, Deji pieces of. Oh, the Ritang on the Chia, the Migimangola, Chia Kabichi, the Taka Sanji, somebody else. The last.
Yeah, so there is a story about Buddha. So, how about Bujian, right? Buddha descending from the realms of 33. So we celebrate this auspicious day as well. So regarding this occasion, Buddha went to realms of the 33 for 3 months and gave Dharma teachings to his mother. And while Buddha was reciting in realms of 33, then one god has seen the 5 signs of death, and this god knows that he's going to be born as a pig. So he was in great pain and great suffering. Then he went and seek help from Buddha. Then Buddha gave the Namgyama mantra. You all know Namgyama mantra, right? So Buddha gave a Namgyama mantra to the Desarium gods. And this Namgyama mantra, there is another name for it. It is pinnacle Namgyama mantra, or the crown Namgyama mantra. So why is it called the crown Namgyama mantra? Is because Buddha gave the mantra from Buddha gave the Namgyama mantra from the pinnacle, or from the crown protrusion. So that is why it's called crown Namgyama mantra, because Buddha gave the mantra from the crown, and then gave this mantra to gods in the realms of the 33. So, and then these Desarium gods then took refuge in Buddha and recite the mantra. Then it stops the next rebirth being born as a pig. So it stops. So instead of being born as a pig, and these Desarium gods again accumulate the merits to be born as a Desarium gods, to be born as a god beings again, then for 3 lifetimes. So next is sufferings of jealousy. So for the gods with extensive heaps of merit, the most exquisite sense pleasures arise. When the gods with little merit see that, they envy them and experience acute suffering and mental unhappiness. So even gods, they have gods with greater merit, and they are gods with a lesser amount of merit as well. So when those gods with lesser merit see those gods with greater merits, they also feel kind of they also feel they do not have confidence. They lack they do not feel they do not feel confidence in front of them, and then they also experience a mental unhappiness.
Lama tabana li dunga dunga Lama Kambare Laba de Soda Tubaina Yanja Chigri Shigmari Segorwa. That Shigmari go Chevada Nila Sabat Rico Vaina, that Shindu Resegorwa. The mother Tishigmari Tag and the Dungit and the Mambuji or Rescorwa.
And the sufferings of being chopped up, split, killed, and banished. When the gods fight with the demigods, they experience the sufferings of having their limbs and minor body parts chopped off, the sufferings of their bodies being split, and the sufferings of being killed. If their heads are chopped off, then they die. So if their heads chop off, they die, or their heart are pierced, then they also die. But the remaining limbs and minor body parts that are chopped off or split, it grows back, and they survive. Yeah.
Dinala Juba Serino, Juba the Kanda Ha Chimbo told the Demasokata, Ha Nyang Chua, Tuchu Zokanda, a desala demachi mapine, mapija watero Kanda in a Trevatroa, or de Kanda Tuzeta, Reta Kanda, Tindi Tuzetaneta, doing young Latroa. That's also Kamba Sosu, Kamba Desa in a demachi mapija, ma Zewanchi, mapija deroa, or that day Kanda so desal demachi mapija de, near Trebalo Udwa. That Tindi doing you at.
As for banishment, when there is conflict, the more powerful gods drive the weaker gods out of their abodes. So they banish, or those powerful gods, they chase the weaker ones away from their own abodes.
Oh yeah, that didn't take a shower in Roa. That didn't take a shot. That Jill Masson's in the near and the Casson at the Lima de Omarwa. That Dimadi Jill Caserota,
Jimadundo.
Lima de Omara Aleo. That Jill Maleva in the Jill Masson's in the Chide. That kind of deal also Kankumani Hana, the sort of Machi Duty Wolma. That Kunju the Mango Suits of Cheroa. They are to what in a Chechurajela.
Because the Kankoma di Shije, any day to Atilera.
You to what in a Digurua.
That's
what that Jill is. That's how much and answer that. That jail must show you what you do.
That's all.
Yeah. That's some of making about now what they should have got choose. Tang answer some of the Yeta, Nyam the Sa, Sola Chimba, Nyam the Sa, Pinzi, Jimpi Chido, so I did it. Also, in the two Jimpi Chido, so but that's how much I try. Tang answer give us some sugar, some Shunchimba, the digital Samage, Dolinchi, Chumadroa.
So, next class, then there's the last class of the year. Then I'm going to continue from the sufferings of gods of the uppermost realms, and we will have a question and answer sessions. So I'm very happy because you all have put so much effort in studying this, and then I also encourage all of you to continue your great effort in the future as well. And then we should consider ourselves very fortunate to have the great opportunity to study this great text, to discuss on this great text, and we benefit each other, we help each other. The way we help and benefit each other is by accumulating the roots of virtue together.
Ganda susu pe shimba ina pisun saba mashiba ina geza la chimbo acha la chimbo shanu garwa ate misi shibide ngato larin digi lungi toba ina rwa soro yanzu gi lung toba res larin gi ti toba ina soro yanzu toba res digi pe piyo la chimbo hinda mara orendo
the lung toba ina
ke chimbo de well, Langi Luntoba, Sura Yonsaba Luntoba coaching with the Sudwa. Why Yonsaba Luntoba coaching race? The Langi the message. That's someone deliberate Joangamag less humble was Shubuki Madamazo in the Nigipe Kogara Kumbur Tangasura.
고추바 세대 단다 수나 탐지 디 롱데 토바데 고추바 세대 니 고추바 세대 더블 왜
고추를 해서 당가서 라리기 눈 토바이나 늘 처마게 눈 토바 고추를 해서 그래.
Yes, 가서 고추바 대양 인지 치대 갑대.
라리기 눈 토차디 다 신다 건가다 토바다 지송을 해서.
지송으로.
지송을 해서 간다.
나서 티양다 지바지간으로 아이슬라. 롱랭이티 담랭이티. So I encourage all of you to continue to study Lamrim, especially Lamrim text. And even if you don't understand, then if you understand, that is better. Even if you don't understand, you accumulate extensive roots of virtue as well. Your extensive, great amount of merits as well. So if it says that if one obtain the oral transmissions of Lamrim, then it is similar to one has already received the oral transmissions of all scriptures. And if you receive the commentary on Lamrim, then it is similar to one has already received the commentary on all scriptures.
참아 간다 랑리의 간라 간다 참아 배 야보 차대바 요르와 다 참아 간다 랑리의 배 창상의 인고 야보 치신도로와 참아 배 미세 야보 신도스 예 참아 대가 인타들이 대상이로와.
Yeah, I'm sure that you all understand Lamrim very well and continue your great effort. I'm going to stop here.
당어서 대 계정와야 되로와 당어서 대리 간다 chanchunari dolente te kanda chetemba jibana rowa dewa ta tanda kanda zanindela mantu da migela soba mayu papa doya ta tan juwa shi ne bala soba te da pa doya ta niya mamu jungdwa ta niya ta pa chama mayu niya ta pa doya ta nieba nyamta sinchen nyanda kandijina kurans pe dechi pisun soba tonia ta kanda rowa long dene sonaya nyane 제 차진 상기일이 단다 챈들라 내가 제도야다 다 챈들라 롱데네 손라야 냐네 시에게 차제만 상마이나 제와 제말이야 롱데네 손라야 앞에 태상고도 냐네 지역이 차진 상한데 리기 제도 봐 뭐야 지제이로와.
So we conclude these sessions with a dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue, especially from these Dharma discussions and these Dharma teaching sessions, may be a complete cause for Buddha Dharma to flourish to all 10 directions and for all sentient beings to have excellent happiness. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for world peace, and may happiness prevails the world, and may this world be free of wars, conflicts, disaster caused by the 4 elements, and then may this pandemic be ceased immediately. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for patience, for those wicked ones and those who are in the sufferings. So may they experience the excellent happiness, and may they have the complete conditions to practice the 3 baskets of teachings in this life. So if in this life the conditions are not complete, then may they experience the complete conditions to practice the 3 baskets of teachings in next life.
다게 전에 사비에 기원데 전도와 근나단데 다치와 지진로 상처바이 빈데 님보리 제조 장주 생조는 보지 마시 바나 지주지 지방님 마음에 바야 공예 공동 배워 원장배 바에 지난 친바 근도 상변 대야 되게 되네 당근제 제서 달로 저기원데다 라도 뭐 동리 따와는 보지 마시 바나 지주지 지방님 마음에 우리의 공동 배워 쇼르니 따와는 보지 마지 방나지 유지 지방은 우리의 공동 배워 쇼 투전 창진 장외자 유빈 저도 무대는 고연한데 저도 되게 된다 캬데 쇼 동리 ninje선 동주베라 지제 상제 강주 진진게 차나베 뭐 된지 장도 소안데서 인데 린도 요 인지된 강된 텐데 말이가 강인도 상대 이게 가든 좀 된지 장도 소안데서 인데 린도 요 강러러 예 고예 신강데 된다도 망인도 예 제레서 본지 장도 협의 된지 보도 된지 yeah thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la, Anila, everyone.
Thank you, Geshe-la, Ken, everyone.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.